Books with Brookes podcast. It's a monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. And our book for this month, the month of August 2021, is a debut release from Tracey Lange that's receiving massive critical acclaim. It's called Are the Brennans. Tracey will be on the podcast later this month to talk about her wild success as a first-time author, and we're really looking forward to that. But today we're going to discuss the book as a book club. And since this book is all about family, I thought it was very appropriate to invite my mom to join us. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Brookes. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to talking about this book with you. Before we jump in, I'm going to just quickly read the book jacket to give everyone a reminder of what this book is about, or maybe you haven't read it yet because it is brand new. It just came out on August 3rd. So give me just a moment and I will read the book jacket. When 29-year-old Sunday Brennan wakes up in a Los Angeles hospital, bruised and battered after a drunk driving accident, she swallows her pride and goes home to her family in New York. But it's not easy. She deserted them all and her high school sweetheart 5 years before with little explanation, and they've got questions. Sunday is determined to rebuild her life back on the East Coast, even if it does mean tiptoeing around resentful brothers and an ex-fiancé. The longer she stays, however, the more she realizes they need her just as much as she needs them. When a dangerous man from her past brings her family's pub business to the brink of financial ruin, the only way to protect the Brennans is to upend all their secrets. Secrets that have damaged the family for generations and will threaten everything they know about their lives. In the aftermath, the Brennans are forced to confront painful mistakes and ultimately find a way forward together. Wow. What a jacket.
Yeah, well,
do you think that was an accurate description of what this book is about?
yeah, I do.
Anything important that I missed?
Well, I like the way it wraps it up. The jacket wraps it up as like everything, in the end, everything with the family is fine. And I would question that.
Yeah, for sure. I guess this is a really good moment to say there will be spoilers in this podcast because we're going to talk about this book that does have a bit of a twist, and the ending I think is pretty important. Not that all endings aren't important, but I think in this case, sort of where we end up with the family is going to be a huge part of our discussion. So that's just a warning. That's a spoiler alert warning. If you haven't read the book, we're going to spoil it for you. So close your ears if you don't want to know. Mom, you read this book, right? You didn't listen on audiobook.
Yes, I read it. I'm not a fan of audiobooks.
That's right.
Old school.
They're so good though. Jake actually listened to this one on audiobook and I listened to some of it with him and I thought it was really well done. And it was fun to hear like some of the accents because in my head, I'm like, a lot of these people are like, have Irish accents, a bit of a brogue, if you will, but I can't really do them very well in my head. I just sound like I can only do like a leprechaun impression. So it was fun to hear some of those in the audiobook version. I think it added some ambiance,
Yes, I can see where it would.
Although actually, I guess the book jacket doesn't say that the family's Irish, but also there's four-leaf clovers all over the cover. So that gives you a bit of a hint. But yeah, they are an Irish family. The father and mother came directly from Ireland. So it's about like first generation Irish siblings.
So they would have definitely had an accent. At least
I think definitely like Mickey, the dad would have, definitely the mom, like the guy, Billy Walsh, definitely did. They talk about his accent in the book. So probably none of the like siblings would have had one. Maybe some of the like cousins, like extended family. So I would say, yeah, we read the plot rundown, but there's a lot of characters, as you can imagine, in a large Irish Catholic family. There's tons of characters. And I had some trouble keeping them straight, especially in the beginning. Did you experience that, Mom?
A little bit, but I thought she did a great job of detailing each family member and other characters. I thought she did a good job of that.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think so too. And they were all very distinct. But I just think anytime you're dealing with like more than 4 or 5 main characters, it's just unwieldy a little bit as a reader, which is fine. I mean, this is more of like an ensemble story probably than it is like about a main protagonist, although I don't know. I guess we could make the argument the other way too, because I definitely think Sunday, who is the main, she's, the woman who gets in the drunk driving accident and has to come home. So I definitely think she is our like main character, but it's also written really like interesting in an interesting style in that we jump perspectives. So every chapter is from a different character's point of view. And I actually, as an exercise, I went through and counted how many chapters each character gets. Do you want to guess who has the most, Mom?
Denny.
You think Denny? Okay, that's a great guess. It is not Denny. It is actually Sunday, but only by one. So Sunday has 6 chapters, Denny has 5, and then Kale also has 5, which was really surprising to me because I feel like I don't remember reading Kale's perspective as much for some reason. Like if you had asked me how many chapters he had, I would have said like 3, but he had 5.
Well, he's a pretty main character.
The same number as Denny. I know, but I wonder if it's like because like Kale isn't a Brennan, right? So he's just like kind of secondary in all things. Citizen. So I don't remember his perspective as clearly as I remember the perspectives of the Brennans, which is kind of funny. I don't know.
Or maybe he just wasn't as well defined. I don't know. His background.
Maybe not. But so Kale is like, he's the adopted Brennan, and then he and Sunday have been dating since like they were 15, but they're currently broken up because she left.
He's also the best friend of Denny Brennan. And that's, true. I think, an important factor.
Yeah.
So he's the best friend of Denny, but he ends up engaged even to Denny's sister, Sunday.
They're like secretly engaged. Then Sunday leaves. Right. Okay. So let's go back up to the top. And I'm going to ask you, did you like the book?
I love the book. Hats off to somebody for a debut novel this eloquently written.
Ugh, I so agree. I loved it as well. It's a 5-star. It's a 5-star for me. And those are pretty rare.
My 5 stars are very rare. And I gave it a 4. But if there were half a stars, I would have given it a 4.5.
Yeah, I get you. So what are the major themes of this book?
Well, family, of course.
Definitely.
And family dynamics and makeup and is definitely probably the number one driving force behind the whole book.
Yeah, definitely. Like loyalty, I think, because I feel like all the characters are constantly deciding like who are they loyal to? Like, is it each other? Is it themselves? Is it their new families? Is it their ancestors?
Family?
Yeah. Like who are they loyal to? And like people are always demanding loyalty, and it's like, who are you gonna be loyal to? I think that's a big part of it. I also think like secrets and flaws. Like one thing I really liked about this book is that there's all these characters and they're all so flawed. Like they're all trying their best, but they just like keep screwing stuff up. And they all have these kind of secrets that they're hiding. And, it felt really, obviously it's like a bit melodramatic. Like this is a piece of media, but it feels realistic in that like everyone's just trying their hardest and they can't always do it right,
But isn't that real life? I mean, how many of us are perfect?
Right. Exactly. No one's perfect. So we all screw up and let people down and make the wrong choices occasionally. So it's like maybe the moral is like it's less about if you make a mistake, but how you like fix the mistake.
How you deal with the mistake.
Yeah.
Right.
Which again, the Brennans are not perfect at fixing their mistakes either. But yeah, I think those are some really good themes. All right. Our first sentence, I love to talk about these. So chapter 1, Sunday. The grinding noise and vibration of the rumble strips under her passenger side tires snapped Sunday to attention. What do you think about that?
I think it's a gripping first sentence.
Yeah, I agree. It's very active.
Yeah.
It goes on to say, getting behind the wheel had been a bad idea. She tightened her grip at 10 and 2. It's funny, like, well, Mom, you and I were talking about this ahead of our recording, so I think I know your opinion on this matter, but like Sunday is our protagonist. She's a very flawed person. She let a lot of people down. She's made some really selfish choices. And then, the book opens with her having this terrible drunk driving accident. Luckily, she doesn't hurt anyone else, just herself. She hits like a concrete barrier. But it's funny to like spend the entire book like rooting for this character who like did something so awful in the first sentence, you know?
Yes,
But
I
I think you
agree.
said you didn't like her that much. Is that true?
Well, I had a hard time being empathetic to her plight. While she goes through a very traumatic experience in her life that would have been traumatic for anybody, I still have trouble being empathetic to that because of the decisions she made and because of how her personality is portrayed. She could have been more likable.
Yeah. Sure. I guess that's true. Although I found her likable. I really rooted for her and like really wanted her to sort of put the pieces back together and stop hiding and running,
I did too. Make the right choices. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I rooted for her and I liked her overall. Yeah, there were just tons of characters. Did you have a favorite character?
Well, other than Shane.
Oh, Shane. Yeah, Shane's the best.
Yeah. Gee, I don't know. They all had good and bad qualities.
Yeah.
I don't know. Cale, I liked Cale. I felt for him. I could feel empathy for him in his situation to a degree.
Yeah.
Which I was unable to do for Sunday. So I'd have to go with those two.
Interesting. I feel like I was much more empathetic towards Sunday than I was Cale. I thought Cale was like, I don't know. He was just kind of a whiny boy. Yeah. He's kind of a whiny boy. Like he was so mad at her for leaving, but he never went after her. Like
I know.
It seems like he never even like texted her after she left. And it's like, hey man, like whose fault is that?
Right. And I agree. And that was one of my questions about it. About the book. Should Cale have gone after her or at least reached out to her in some way before moving on to a big decision like getting married and starting a family?
Yeah. I loved the sentence. It really stood out to me. There's a sentence where Denny says, I forbid you to marry her.
Yeah.
About Vivian. And I loved that. And like, I forbid you to marry her. And he doesn't anyway.
Was that about Vivian? Or was that I forbid you to marry her? Was he talking about Sunday?
Right. I mean, I have to imagine it was a combination of the two. Like Vivian is such an interesting character. Let's talk about Vivian a little bit. So I felt like Vivian was one of those people that you just kind of don't like and you can't put your finger on why. Like she's perfectly nice. She does everything that you expect her to. She's very reliable. Like she's never me. Like you can kind of never put your finger on. It's just something about her. You're like, it's not really for me. And I kind of feel like that's how everyone felt about Vivian, which is so unfair because she's a really nice person. She's a really good partner. She's an excellent mom. Like she's very beautiful. Like she's kind of doing everything right. And yet nothing is going right for her. It's like a square peg in a round hole or something.
Well, again, I think you have to go back to her mother and her upbringing to understand her choices and the way she reasons. I mean, her mother was very, you've got to marry the right man. He's got to make enough money. He's got to have a good enough job. He's got to be respectful in the community. And that's how she was raised.
Yeah. Like here's what's
but
important.
it made her not likable.
Yeah, but it just seems so unfair. I mean, this poor Vivian, like really, really, really got screwed in this and kind of like for no reason. And it's sad. But I mean, again, that's life, right? Like you can do everything right. You can work absolutely as hard as possible on your relationships and they still might not work out, like still might not go your way, which is, sort of like very real. And I like that. But she's an interesting character. And she has that speech at the end. I think I marked it. she has this really epic speech where Kale is sort of telling her, like, I don't think I can do this. And she's like, are you kidding me? You're gonna seriously? Like, and everything she says, like, it's so hard to hear and it's like painful and you want her to shut up. But everything she says is also true. She says, like, she's gonna hurt you again, right? It's in their blood, Kale. She's talking about the Brennans.
Oh, yeah. That's a real dig.
Yeah. Okay, I can't find her whole speech, but she basically has this speech where she's like lists all the things that they've done to screw him over. And it's like, she is not wrong. Like, honestly, he would probably be better off if he ditched the Brennans forever. Like, he would probably have a more stable and happy life. He would probably find more success. I don't know. It's really funny. And also this idea of like, are you rooting for this guy to abandon his family? And I kind of was, and I kept catching myself doing it, like being like, oh, he's got to go. Like, he's got to go be with Sunday. But it's like, his wife didn't do anything wrong. His son certainly didn't do anything wrong. Like, you're going to root for them to break up. Yeah, it was weird. Like, it felt like I shouldn't be doing that, but I couldn't not. But Mom, I think you said you thought he should stay. You were not rooting for him to leave.
I was rooting for him to stay with his family. I felt like what Sunday did to him was unfair. And I also felt, as you mentioned, maybe he'd be better off without the Brennans in his life. However, they did take him in and, accepted him. And he needed, at a time in his life when he needed to belong, what happens to kids who don't feel they belong to a family and they don't find a Brennan's to take them in? What happens to those kids?
Yeah.
A lot of them, turn out not so good. So there's that good part of the Brennans as well. They did a good thing for this child who needed a family.
Yeah. Because his mom was dead and his dad was really sick, right? Or she was gone, maybe? I can't remember.
She left, I think. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah. So he's got trauma around that too, which makes his
Right.
decision to leave his family in the end like that much heavier because he experienced that as a child. And
Yeah.
It was so horrible. Yeah. Okay.
Which
Here's a question.
kind of surprised me as to what his final decision was.
Yeah.
I thought he
I
would
kind of
go back
didn't think.
to those
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just what is your forgiveness level as a person? But like what Sunday did to him was like pretty unforgivable in my book. Like she truly just left and with no explanation and disappear. Like, you're gonna get back together with someone who did that to you. Like, woof. Have some self-respect, Kale.
No explanation, no goodbye, not even I need some time, I'll be back. No, nothing.
Yeah.
Just left.
Yeah. Pretty hurtful.
Yes.
Hello, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of the Producing While Asian podcast. Join us to listen in on conversations with everyone who identify from producers to non-producers who all are part of the AAPI community. There's all that and more on the Producing While Asian podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles,
And me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new.
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next,
a part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
So speaking of Sunday leaving, so Jackie, who's one of the other brothers, he's kind of the forgotten brother, like middle child, I assume.
Middle child, yeah.
Yeah. He knows what happened to Sunday, right? Like he was there.
Yes,
and she makes him promise to never, ever tell. And he doesn't. So I guess my question is, did he do the right thing by never like confiding in anyone about what happened to Sunday, never offering any explanation, even after she leaves?
Yeah, family secrets. Well, clearly, looking back as a result of everything that happened, because he didn't say anything, you would say he should have told. But if you put yourself in that situation, this is your sister, and they had a real bond. Jackie and Sunday had a real bond as children and growing up. And, she asked him not to say anything, and he kept his word to her. That's a hard choice. That's a hard place to be put.
Yeah.
She kind of put him in a very bad place.
Yeah.
Again, something else Sunday did wrong. Tough choices.
Yeah, it's a tough choice. I mean, yeah, I think like on its face, he probably did do the right thing because, yeah, again, like it's this loyalty question of like, who are you going to be loyal to? Like, is he going to be loyal to Sunday, who he gave his word to and promised? Even though, like, I think it's pretty clear that like she needs help and he could have stepped in and like remedied this terrible situation of her leaving and nobody understanding why. And she really like abandoned this tight-knit family and everyone was thrown for a loop because of it. Like it was sad reading about Shane, especially in like the hard time he had. Not that he probably would have like understood it fully, but like, they all deserved some kind of explanation and like some communication at the very least. And they didn't get that. And Jackie's just like for years sitting with this secret. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And was it fair of her to put that responsibility on him?
No, certainly not.
And here's the thing. He let her go and didn't say anything and let her leave her family at the time when she probably needed her family the most.
Yeah.
I mean, she was going through a horrific emotional turmoil. And that's when you need your family the most. And she left. And he let her go. Yeah. He doesn't go after her either.
Right. No.
Nobody does. Just let her go. And for 5 years, she's just gone.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I don't know. Like you do have to like respect people's choices. Like that was her choice to make. She could choose to leave and go. She's an adult. She had that ability and that agency. So, are you going to tell her she can't make that choice? I mean, yeah, at a certain point, it's like, no, she's a big girl. She gets to do what she wants. And if she wants to leave, she can leave. This is how she chooses to handle this trauma. Like that's on her. It's her choice, which I think is also true. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about so I loved the format of this book, which was jumping perspectives from chapter to chapter. Very cool. But she even takes it a step farther and uses this. It reminds me of an improv game that we play where you use the last line that was spoken in the scene prior to start a new scene. So basically the format is we're in someone's perspective in a chapter. The chapter ends with another character saying something and the next chapter begins in that character's perspective using that last sentence. So chapter 2, another Dennyism came to her. You have fucked this up on a grand scale. Then she slammed into concrete and everything went black. Chapter 2, Denny. You have fucked this up on a grand scale, he told himself. So like we take that sentence, we put it in the mouth of the person who said it, and then we're in their perspective.
Oh, I thought that was just a phenomenal way of doing it. It helped you if you were pausing between a lengthy pause between chapters. It helped you. Oh yeah, that's where I ended up. I loved it. I love the whole concept. And I have not seen that done before.
I know, me too. It seems such a simple thing, but I can't think of a book that does it.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
Which is really cool. Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it.
So again, hats off to Tracey for not only doing a great debut novel, but also coming up with a great way, a new writing style almost.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to talk to her about like how she decided whose perspective we would be in at like which point in the story, because it's still a pretty chronological story. I mean, we jump in time a little bit, like in that they're telling about what happened and we experience like the night when she's injured. We do all of that in seemingly real time. So there is like some time jumps, but overall it's a chronological story, I would say. So you're already telling this story from start to finish, beginning, middle, and end, but you're also doing it from the minds of a bunch of different characters.
Which is great cool. Because it is, especially when the book is about family dynamics. So she's showing it enables her to show each family's perspective on the same situation.
Mm-hmm. And how different they are.
Yeah, how different
You
they
know.
react to, how
Yeah.
very different they are, even though they all have the same genes, with the exception of Kale.
Yeah. So let's talk about Mickey. Mickey's the dad. He's this Irish dad who is like implied that he fought for the Irish in the the Northern Ireland Rebellion.
Yeah.
So he has sort of a like maybe a checkered past, and he moves his family over to the United States for a fresh start, or maybe to escape something awful that he did in Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Secret number one.
Right. But he becomes kind of like the mayor of this town unofficially. Everyone knows who he is. He has a lot of success, business success. He buys like the biggest house on the block. Like he has this huge family. He's like really well respected in the community. We think he's a really big presence. Like he's a big figure as the patriarch, right? But then we start to discover that he is flawed too, and he has made all these mistakes in his life. He had an affair that apparently the whole town knew about, but none of his family knew about. He like made some questionable business decisions. Like he fired some people maybe he shouldn't have fired. So he's also not a perfect guy. He like maybe didn't work that hard on his own marriage, even though he stayed in it. He didn't really stay faithful. He wasn't really super present. It's just like, what is his role as a father? Did he fulfill it? Like, have our standards of what a good father is changed? Yeah, I would say so. Like, he probably thinks he's a great dad. He was a great provider. He gave his family everything they could need financially, but like, who wasn't really there emotionally or morally or like, and so what? I don't know. I thought that was like an interesting question of like, our standards of fatherhood are not the same today as they were in like 1950. How do you grapple with that?
Well, and also to connect that with Kale. So as this comes out, the whole affair that Denny had, and Kale gains knowledge of this, and then he sees, well, wait, Mickey stayed in this marriage without real true love, and look how his kids turned out. They're all flawed.
Right.
Maybe staying isn't the best thing. And did that have any basis for him making the decision that he made to leave his family? I don't know. But could have.
Yeah, I think those are really good points, Mom, about Mickey and Kale and just like fatherhood in general. And I also got the impression that like Kale's dad was really uninvolved because he was sick a lot. It just didn't seem like he had much of a dad either at home.
Right. So his mother's gone, so he doesn't have a mother present. And then his dad is unable to really give him what he needs. And that's where the Brennans did step in and take in this kid who was floundering, and needed a family.
Yeah.
Again, one of the few positives of the Brennan family.
I know it's funny that you say that, but like my biggest like reaction when I finished the book was like, I want to be a Brennan. Like I'm trying to have a cup. I want a cuppa in their kitchen, like around that dining room table. Like I know that they're not great people, or like it can really be debated if they are, but also I like want to be one of them. Like they have this really strong bond. They have these like, I don't know, their house just seems so safe. Although I will say, how many people were living in that house?
I don't know. At any given time, I'm not sure.
Like 8 adult people in that house throughout this book. Denny and his wife and child, Mickey the dad, Shane, which that makes sense, I guess, Jackie, and then also Sunday, and then also Kale. That's 8 people. How big is this house?
Well, it was very cozy, I'm sure, but it was the biggest house on the block.
Yeah,
so,
which they were very proud of.
Yeah, so you gathered that it was, a large house.
Yeah.
But back to each character had a flaw, but in the same time, you can find positive things about each character too. I mean, it portrays Mickey, the dad, as being someone that was very prominent in the community, thought well of in his community. He did a lot of good things for the community, hired a lot of people who couldn't get jobs elsewhere. So, everybody had good points and flaws, except for maybe Denny. Who had trouble finding any good points about it.
Ouch. No, I mean, I think Denny most of the time is like a very good husband and father, and he's like very committed to his family. He's like really takes care of everyone. I mean, he was certainly like the golden child, which is really annoying, but it seems like he's a hard worker, even though he kind of like only works on the stuff that he's interested in working on. No, I think Denny has plenty of like good qualities, but we are meeting him at, maybe the worst time of his life to date. And he has made a bunch of really bad decisions.
Well, because he had no bad points, bad times in his life growing up. He was always, as you said, the golden child. He always had the best grades. He always was the best in sports. He always had the best friends. He always had the best reputation at school. He was always in with the popular crowd.
Yeah.
And his parents kind of put him up there on a pedestal for all the other kids to try to reach, maybe with the exception of Shane. But what did that do to the other two children, Jackie and Sunday? Could they ever live up to that? And was that a fair place for the parents to put them in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely felt like bad for Jackie, like middle child Jackie, who's like, oh, I think I just want to like be an artist. And everyone's like, that's stupid. And like,
yeah.
And he's like painting these beautiful paintings in his childhood bedroom, like sad guy.
Almost secretly, because
he
didn't show them to any of the family members.
Right. He can't show them to anybody. Okay. As we wrap up here, let's talk about the ending. Big spoilers, obviously. What did we think of the ending? It sort of ends with this twist, which is that the dad, Mickey, is probably the one who killed Billy Walsh. The gun is missing, and then they find the gun in his little hidey hole in his room. So, he never admits to it, obviously, but I think it is clear that he has gone and taken justice into his own hands, and he has killed this man who is hurting his family. And then now he's saddled the rest of the family with a new secret they have to keep.
Right.
So, I think it's debatable. Like, are the Brennans okay? I don't know. The last secret that they had, which was arguably smaller than this one, ruined them, almost ruined them. So how are they going to stand up under the pressure of this secret?
Book 2.
I know. I would definitely read a sequel about the Brennans. I want to know what's going to happen to Kellen Sunday. Like, I want to see if like Denny can be like the husband he needs to be for his like badass, really hot wife. Like, yeah, there's a lot. I want to see if Jackie ever moves out and like becomes an artist. Like, how does the new restaurant do? Like, does anybody ever get in trouble for Billy Walsh's death? Like, yeah, I'm super interested. Like, how does the divorce go with Vivian? Like, she is not going to make it easy on him, and honestly she shouldn't. Like, get it, girl. Like, I kind of agree. Like, he should pay for your life. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of things.
I would definitely read a book 2. I don't know, we'll have to ask Tracey. I don't know if there's one in the works or not, but I would definitely take another round with the Brennans for sure.
And maybe it could be titled, Do You Want to Be a Brennan?
Yes. Are we the Brennans? Question mark. Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, well, this was so fun. I feel like this book has so much in it worth discussing. We just barely scraped the surface, as is always the case with really good books. So we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Mom, for joining. Everyone, her actual name is Susan. I don't think I said that because I just call her Mom. This is Susan. Susan, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on today?
No, I think we covered it pretty well. Just leave you with, we are the Mays.
Oh, oh God. Don't write a book about that.
Really?
All right. Well, yeah, I guess that's it then. Happy reading, everyone. Good day. Books with Brookes is produced by Mo Barrow with theme music by Jonathan Allen. Books with Brookes is part of the Press Play Podcast Network, which empowers hosts to create high-quality professional shows that inspire and entertain. If you've been dreaming of hosting your own podcast, we can help. Please email content@pressplaypodcast.com to get started today. Please be sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes wherever you listen to podcasts.